Oh my goodness. Oh my god, we're back. Who would have thought? Probably me. But we're back. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk the weekend that was college football conference championships, college football playoff committee's decision, and an NFL slate to run through. Let's start with Saturday because that was a fun Saturday. The chaos scenario for the playoff committee happened. And yeah, I'm going to start with Michigan. I'm going to go through the top six teams because they all played in their conference championship games and give my thoughts on their games and their placement in the rankings. Once again, starting off with the Michigan Wolverines. It's kind of funny they play Iowa in the Big Ten championship. I wish that was not a thing, but it's a thing. And it went exactly how you'd expect. Michigan won 26-0. Iowa's offense cannot do a single thing. Their defense is very good. Hey, you have to give them that. They held Michigan to 213 total yards and 3 for 15 on third down. You're thinking, how the hell did that team score 26 points? Well, it's because the Hawkeyes had 3 turnovers and 7 penalties. That'll do it right there. Michigan, number 1 team in the nation heading into the college football playoff. At number 2, you got the Washington Huskies in the final Pac-12 game. I like seeing that all the Pac-12 mascots were there. It's very sad that that's a thing. It's very sad that that happened, but it is what it is. It was a great send-off as Washington coming into the game as 9.5, 10-point dogs after beating Oregon in Washington's house just a few months ago. Michael Penix, great quarterback. Guess what? Bo Nix is the favorite for the Heisman. Guess what? Washington's been kind of struggling versus Pac-12 opponents. They've been surviving. You have to give them that. They've been surviving, but they've been struggling. On the other hand, you got Oregon. They've been dominating. Washington comes in hot. They come in firing in a 34-31 victory. The big thing in this one, in my opinion, was they kind of had control of the game the entire time. Like, the final score looked very nice. You cannot give up that long 70, 60-yard touchdown that freaking Washington gave up with 2 minutes left to make it that one possession game. Excuse me. You simply cannot have it. But the big thing, in my opinion, aside from that, is Washington going 10 for 15 on third down while Oregon went 3 for 10. That is the money down. Drives were extended. Drives were killed. And it still ended up being a 3-point ball game. Washington, though, undefeated, Power 5 champ, beat Oregon twice in one season, both in rather dramatic fashion when it may not have needed to be. But, yeah, we knew those were going to happen. I guess we didn't know the results were going to be that, but we did know that Michigan was going to be 1 and Washington was going to be 2. The thing we maybe didn't know was Texas was going to be 3, and they steamrolled Oklahoma State. I was kind of excited to see if Oklahoma State could do something. You know, they sent off Oklahoma in the final Bedlam game as Oklahoma's going to the SEC next season, and Texas is also leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC next season. How poetic would that be? Oklahoma State staying in the Big 12 to say, hey, get out of here. You beat Oklahoma, you beat Texas, you end their playoff hopes. That didn't even come close to happening. Texas dominated 49-21. They were up big early, 662 total yards. I don't know the exact number, but Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback, had over 300 passing yards in the first half. My God, a dominant win like that is exactly what Texas needed. That's exactly what they got, and the number 3 rank is exactly what they got. I'll talk about what my thoughts are on the overall decision, but there are 2 more games to go to. Let's roll over to ACC first. Let's go to ACC first, as Florida State completed the undefeated season, winning 16-6 against Louisville. It was not the result. It was not the dominant result that you were looking for. It was not the dominant result that Texas got, that Michigan got. Not that Michigan was in danger, but you get what I'm saying. Texas got that dominant result. Okay, they have that big push to get in. Florida State needed that, but they have a true freshman and at quarterback. And guess what? Their defense stepped up heavily. Louisville went 3 for 18 on third down and averaged 3.1 yards per pass. Goodness. Florida State's defense stepped up. They stepped up big during the Florida game during that second half. They stepped up again in the ACC championship when it truly mattered. Unfortunately, Florida State went 2 for 16 on third down and averaged 2.6 yards per pass. So, yeah, not truly convincing for the Seminoles, and ultimately they were left out of the college football playoff, the first Power 5 undefeated champion to be left out. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know what's a little bit, potentially, depending on your opinion, but definitely in my opinion, potentially a little more impactful? Beating a team that's on a 29-game win streak. Beating the number one team that's on a 29-game win streak. They haven't lost a game since 2021. Georgia goes into this game, hey, we lose, we still might be in. That's how good the Dogs are. And unfortunately, Alabama came to play, A, and B, Georgia shot themselves in the foot twice. In the first half, down 10-7, Georgia, 13-play drive, 7 minutes ticked off the clock, ended in a missed field goal. Can't have that. Guess what? Bama took the ball, 9 plays, touchdown, 17-7 going into halftime. Pretty much, there was like a minute, give or take, left in the first half. Boom, 17-7. Can't have it. Okay, Georgia during the second half makes it a one-possession game. They're in their own red zone, pretty much, give or take. I've been saying that. They fumble. Now, the Dogs' defense did step up. They forced a field goal from Alabama. All right, here we go, but that's a two-possession ball game. That's definitely not all she wrote. There were more points that were scored, as the score of them was only, 20-10. But as the final score was 27-24, I don't think I said that yet. But yeah, they shot themselves in the foot. Alabama was able to take advantage of it off of 2 pretty much turnovers. I'll count the missed field goal as a turnover for my own personal narrative. 10 points off of turnovers for Alabama. And that was the swing. That was the difference. And a Nick Saban coach team that started in the gutter. 10-point, or I guess double-digit loss to Texas. The South Florida game was extremely close. This is how you end the season. My goodness. Jalen Milroe, he's a stud. He's a stud. He's phenomenal. I'm excited to see what he does. But yeah, those were the 6 teams that the college football playoff was considering. And I guess my takeaway is that this season, obviously it's all going to change next season, and I don't know if this was true in seasons past. I never really thought of it like this. But timing was truly everything this season in its final form. Because you look at not last week. Was that last week? That was last weekend. Michigan versus Ohio State. Ohio State loses. They have the best loss in the country, pretty much, for a top-ranked team. They have the best loss. And they're out. They're out, just like that. They lost by 3 points. They're out. That's crazy. That's crazy. Jordan Travis, just a few weeks ago, snaps his ankle pretty much. That timing, terrible. They're out. You can win out. Guess what? You're out. I mean, unless the offense did what Ohio State did back in 2014 and won 59-0, it didn't do that. They averaged less than 3 yards per pass. You're out. I did get a little happy. I guess not happy, but I thought it was really cool, the statement that Jordan Travis put out. I'm paraphrasing because I don't fully remember it. But it was something along the lines of, I wish people could have seen I wish my injury could have happened sooner to see what this team could have done with him at quarterback. Because that was just a cool thing to say. I thought that was just cool. But yeah, the timing on that, awful. Their offense definitely didn't show that they should be in the playoffs, but the timing, terrible. For Ohio State, you lose one game by 3 points to the eventual number 1 team, you're out. Georgia, you lose one game to the eventual 4th-ranked team, to a team that's improved steadily throughout the season after winning 29 straight. You lose one, you're out. That's crazy. And it's not me criticizing the decision that was made. I would have preferred to see Georgia in. If it's the four best teams, I think Georgia beats Texas. I think Georgia beats Washington. But what I think doesn't mean anything. It's what the committee thinks, and they have to play a little bit of politics and be like, okay, well, Alabama beat Georgia. They're definitely in. If you beat the number one team, you're in. You're in. Your only loss was week 2. You're in. You've won out. You beat the number one team. You're in. Now, we've had Texas ranked ahead of Alabama this whole time for a 10-point win at Alabama, or double digit. I forget the exact number. They have to be in too, and I understand that. I mean, Michigan and Washington, they're already locks. Texas, they dominated. They dominated. Florida State, if Florida State would have dominated, we have a true conundrum. But I just don't feel good about Georgia being left out. I feel fine with Florida State being left out. If oh my goodness, if they were to play Michigan, it's that 2019 Joe Burrow-led Tigers team versus, what was it, Oklahoma? They're up like 50 at half. Let's cut that shit out. Florida State should not have been in. Let's just figure that out. But I don't feel good about Georgia being left out, but I understand in a 4-team playoff, I get it. Losses matter, and timing is everything. That's why Florida State, they didn't have time to fully prepare their quarterbacks, fully prepare their offense. Their defense stepped up, but their offense was simply not enough. Ohio State, they lose one game, they're out. Just as simple as that. And Georgia, they lose one game late, they're out. Yeah. That's the college football playoffs this year. That was the conference championships. I'm going to have fun watching these games. Michigan versus Bama, I'm excited for. Washington versus Texas, that's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see Washington because I feel like of the lowest potential of all 4 teams, I think it's Washington. But they've had a tendency to survive, so I'm excited to see how that plays out. Moving on, Sunday post noon Sunday when the whole CFP was revealed. Let's talk. Starting off with the biggest game of the week, 49ers at Philadelphia. They go into Philly as 3-point favorites. There's all the shit talk. There's the whole thing about the NFC Championship game last year, and it makes complete sense. If they had Brock Purdy, it's a whole different game. Guess what? Their defense still gave up 30-plus points, but if Brock Purdy's in, the Eagles don't have the ball as much, yada yada. There's a whole debate. It got settled. The 49ers dominated, 42-19. My goodness. They were bigger, faster, stronger. Brock Purdy was more precise. CMC was stronger. Debo was faster. And just, my God. The 49ers at their best are better than any team at their best I could think of in the last few seasons. I could be completely wrong when I just said those words, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a team that's at their best as dominant as San Francisco is. And I don't really think this says much about Philly. I think they just got their shit kicked in. They're still 10-2. It was at the end of the day, we can cloud narratives. We can do the whole build up like I just did. It was week 13? It's one game in week 13. They're still 10-2. They're still 1 seed. There's still 4 or 5 weeks left. They'll be fine. The Eagles will be fine. They're not fraudulent because they win close games. They'll be fine. Just the 49ers played their best ball. And if they play that throughout the playoffs, no one's stopping them. It's that simple. Not a soul is stopping that team. And that's really my main takeaway. I'm not too concerned about Philly. They'll be fine. They do win games close, which is like, could be fraudulent. But I mean, I'm not super duper concerned about it. Brock Purdy, though, absolutely lights out. Debo Samuel lights out. CMC lights out. The defense was lights out. When they're at their best, my goodness. The Cowboys saw it. Now the Eagles saw it. Jesus Christ. The NFL knows who top dog is. Moving forward, the former top dog, well, I guess they're still top dog until they're knocked off. The Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football took a tough loss, as the Green Bay Packers, after starting 2-5, have won 4 of their last 5 and are now 6-6 on the outside looking in of the NFC playoff picture. Lord. My two, I guess, questions from this game was A, are the Packers here? Like, are they a team? Could they make a run? And B, the Chiefs are now 2-3 in their last 5. They had their bye week in between. So they're 2-3 over the last 6 weeks. Since October. That's scary. What's up with the Chiefs? And I look at the defense. They give up pretty much over 100 yards per game. They've only given up, over 100 rushing yards per game. They've only given up less than 100 three times throughout the season. Their defense has not been able to force turnovers the last 2 weeks. But I wouldn't really consider the defense the problem. They're holding teams to less than 30 points literally every single game. That 27 we saw Green Bay score was the most a team has scored on Kansas City all season long. So what's up with the offense? Well, I actually looked at the numbers for the first time because for months I've just been like, they're the Chiefs. They're fine. Like, even when the offense was kind of iffy, I was like, dude, they're 7-2 going into the bye week. They're fine. They lose that game against Philly. They score 31 against the Raiders. It's like, all right, cool. The Raiders are the Raiders. I don't want to disrespect the Raiders, but, the Chiefs dominate the Raiders. But then they drop this one against Green Bay, and it's like, okay, let me actually look because I have not known all season. And Jesus Christ, this team has only thrown for 250 or more passing yards and rushed for triple digits in 2 games this season. If my eyes do not deceive me. They came really close versus the Broncos in the 19-8 win. You can round up. That's cool. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. So, okay, we can say 3 times, but officially 2 times. And that was week 2 against Jacksonville where they had 3 turnovers and won 17-9. And then the other one was week 3 when they dominated the Bears 41-10 and looked like the Chiefs. They also turned the ball over 2 times that game, though. Granted, those turnover problems have not been there the last 3 weeks. It's just something to keep note of when they cannot really have a complete offensive attack through the air and through the ground. And we can sit here and be like, oh, this is what they need to do during the offseason. Guess what? The Chiefs are contenders. The offseason, that's not the focus. They have 5 regular season games. And then guess what? They'll be in the playoffs. So they got 5 regular season games and the playoffs to figure it out. Like, you can do like the offseason talk for some teams. Actually, well, a good portion of teams, not the contenders. You need to look at how to figure it out now, not in March, because games are not won in March. They're won in the regular season right now in December. Yeah, the Chiefs need to figure it out. And my other question was, is Green Bay a team? Green Bay has won 4 of 5, as previously stated. And in the last 3 games, in the 3-game win streak, they've won by 1 possession in each of those games, which I'm not afraid of whatsoever. What I'm very happy to see is that they have not turned the ball over once in those 3 games. And they've thrown the ball for 250 yards or more in all 3 of those games while rushing for triple digits. The Packers have done that in 3 straight games. The Chiefs have done it twice this season. We can round up and say 3 if we'd like to. But, yeah. And they didn't turn the ball over in any of the last 3 games. That's highly impressive. Green Bay is highly impressive right now. Their big thing early this season was they couldn't get the ground game going. Could not whatsoever. Guess what? Since then, I haven't really looked. It's honestly slipped my mind completely. Since week 5, they've only rushed for less than 100 yards once. And it's like, all right, well, the turnovers, they're the big problem. Well, they're gone now. Well, they're not being efficient through the air. All right, well, they're doing pretty good now. On the defensive side, yeah, no, they're still concerning. They've given 300 or they've given up 300 or more total yards in every game but one since the bye week. They had a week 6 bye week, so yeah, and they've given up 140 or more rush yards in each of the last 4 games, but they forced turnovers. And guess what? Is Green Bay a team? Well, they play the Giants, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. And they're 1 seed out of the NFL playoffs. So, are they a team? It's looking like they're going to sneak in. Go for Green Bay. Good for Green Bay. Another team that might sneak in, though. The Los Angeles Rams. The Rams? Yeah, the Rams are on a 3-game win streak. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? They were 3-6. It's like, oh man, the Rams are disappointing again. Post bye week, they've beaten Seattle. Excuse me. They've beaten Arizona and they've beaten Cleveland. And they're on the playoff bubble, and in their last 2 games, they've scored 37 and 36. The 37 came against the Cardinals, where they had a season high of 228 rushing yards in newcomer Kyron Williams' return. I have him in fantasy, but it's not just that. I do like watching the guy play. He's been awesome. And the Rams scored 36 versus Cleveland, which honestly I was surprised to see that final score because in the fourth quarter they only had like 20. And it made sense when I watched it back because they had 16 points in the last 4 minutes from Cleveland turnovers, whether it was a Joe Flacco pick, shout out Joe Flacco for playing, or a turnover on downs because the Browns needed to go for a 4th down and a safety. So, yeah, they were gifted 2 red zone drives, and they got the safety. And you know what? That kind of got me thinking because I hadn't really paid attention to the Rams that much this season. I wanted to look at their red zone just numbers. And boy, was I surprised. Because in terms of red zone scoring attempts per game, the Rams over the season averaged 2.9, which ranks 18th. But in their last 3 games, or I guess in the last 3 weeks of the season, they've averaged 4.3, which is tied for second with Denver. First is Dallas with 5. Dallas is doing absurd stuff getting to the red zone. But yeah, the Rams have figured out how to get to the red zone post bye week. And then when you look at their TD conversion rate, it becomes even more impressive because over the season, they do rank 7th at 62.86%. And over the last 3 weeks, post bye week, that number has jumped up 7% or 6.4 if you're a geek to 69.23%. So what I'm seeing is the Rams offense is figuring out how to get to the red zone, and when they're getting to the red zone, they're efficient as they ever have. As efficient as they've been this season. I was about to say as they ever have been. That's a dumb statement. And their defense gave up 16 to Seattle, 14 to Arizona, and 19 to the Browns. Their defense is holding teams to under 20 points, and their offense is as efficient as it has been this season. Yeah, they might be coming. Pause. They next week they have Baltimore. And then they got the Commanders, then the Saints, Giants, 49ers. Not an easy stretch. Not an easy stretch whatsoever. Baltimore and San Francisco scary, but you got that pack there. Commanders winnable, Saints winnable, Giants winnable. Excuse me. Yeah, that's all I got. Surprised to see that. Like the Rams, hey, they could be figuring it out at the exact perfect time as they sit also on the playoff bubble. The problem is with them and the Packers being both on the playoff bubble is that the Packers hold the tiebreaker as in week 9, the week before the Rams bye week when Matthew Stafford was out and I think Brett Ripon was in. Yeah. The Packers did win 20-3 as you would expect. So, yeah. Are the Rams coming? Pause. They might be. Let's switch it to the AFC, though, as the Texans survived the Denver Broncos and ended their win streak. Houston now sitting at 7-5 on the season. Denver now sitting at 6-6. This game came down to one simple thing, and that was turnovers. If you're Denver, you turn the ball over 3 times, and Houston turns the ball over no times. It's surprising it came down to the last play. Granted, okay, well, not the last play, but the last 30 seconds. What is not surprising, though, is the fact that Houston was able to force turnovers because since week 9, they have forced 9 turnovers, and that is 5 games. They forced 9 turnovers in 5 games. And after a little stint there against the Bengals and the Cardinals where they turned the ball over 3 times in each of those matchups. Their last 2 games, they have not turned the ball over once. It really is as simple as that. It is surprising the game came down to the ending it came down to. But yeah, no, the Broncos streak was bound to end eventually, and they played a dangerous team in Houston with one of the best passing offenses in football and a defense that's giving that man CJ Stroud more possessions. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Pretty basic stuff. And when you look at what this matchup meant for the AFC playoff picture, both of these teams are still on the bubble, but Houston obviously has the tiebreaker over the Broncos. And Houston's the only 7-5 team that's left out right now. Looking at the one of the 7-5 teams that are in, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers, because I'm a Steelers fan. I watch their games the most. I know about them the most, and they suffered this week. They suffered at the hands of rain, and at the hands of the Arizona fucking Cardinals, and at the hands of injury. I'm not super surprised the game went how it went. I guess this is me 3 days later. Yes, I was surprised when it was happening, and yes, this is going to be much less uniform. I'm going to try to make it quick, though, because who the hell wants to talk about the Steelers versus the Cardinals? But it's not surprising when a defense that gives up a ton of yards but forces turnovers gives up 24 points when they're giving up a ton of yards, but they cannot force those turnovers. That's just kind of what's going to happen. And when you have a super low potential offense, especially with Mitch Trubisky in the game, yeah, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna win the football game. Like you're not gonna do what you intended to do. And I mean, Boswell missing the field goal is one of those things that you just can't have. That's a little shot right in the foot. And that missed field goal came the drive after a fumble that set Arizona up at the Pittsburgh 21 when the score was only 10-3. Arizona extended it to 17-3. And Pittsburgh could not make it 17-6. Mitch Trubisky versus Bailey Zappi on Thursday Night Football. Jesus Christ, save us. The Colts, the Indianapolis Colts, have extended their winning streak to 4. A team led by Gardner Minshew is in the AFC wild card with a team currently led by Mitch Trubisky. Just going back for a split second, I forget to mention this. Kenny Pickett is reportedly out for 2 to 4 weeks. But Gardner Minshew, let's get back to the main attraction, the man himself. 4-game winning streak. You can sit here and say it's just the Panthers and the Patriots, then the Buccaneers, then the Titans, and I get it. But it's a team led by Gardner Minshew. Let's not downplay that. And in 3 of those games, they've scored 27 or more points, which has been exactly what they've done all season long. Shane Steichen's done a phenomenal job. And their defense, as yes, they give up a ton of rushing yards. Since what week is this? Week 7. They've given up 125 or more in every single game. Damn it, that defense forces turnovers. They forced a turnover in every single game, but since that week specifically, they have forced 12 turnovers, giving Gardner Minshew those chances that he needs, that the boys need. And they're buzzing. 4-game win streak. They're currently in the playoffs. Big time overtime win. Let's transition to Monday Night Football real fast, and I'm going to get out of here. Because real simply, I just want to talk about, can the Bengals make a potential run now that they're sitting at 6-6? Because Jake Browning was electric. I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but I know he threw very efficient for over 300 yards. And you could tell early on there were training wheels on. I remember seeing the graphic that Monday Night Football put up that Jamar Chase had 3 targets for 3 catches for 3 yards. Bananas. Super low potential throws, and they just slowly loosened those wheels. Jake Browning showed he could do more. They slowly loosened those wheels. Because I thought when Burrow went down, they were going to have to win games like the Steelers have. They're the team I've watched the most. They've had no offense. I know how teams can win games without an offense. Their defense has to be lights out and force turnovers, while the special teams is also lights out. They didn't need that. The Bengals dropped 34 points. They won. They're still in it. Trevor Lawrence down. Terrible. That sucks. But yeah, the Bengals needs the rushing offense with Chase Brown and Joe Mixon to do exactly what they did last night. Because the Jake Browning experience, I don't think is going to do what it did every single week. That would be a shock. So the defense is going to have to allow less than 31 points, but they stole one. They got one. Well, I don't want to say they stole one. They definitely got a great win with a backup quarterback. And you got to give credit where credit is due there. As since he's not dead yet, they're not dead yet. You take away Joe Burrow, that doesn't mean the weapons aren't still not there either. And yeah, that's going to do it for me today. We reached 30 minutes. I think that was a good little show. If you enjoyed, thank you. If not, why are you still listening? But yeah, have a good one.